How to measure trust in a billion-dollar market with a captive, unpaid workforce. 3 metrics to start tracking the functionality of the online job market for real. Hi, my name is Sarah Trumbull. I am the founder and CEO of the Job Applicant Perspective, the first anonymous user reviews for job ads across the U.S. This is the level of go-to-market awareness, as well as public service for all the gaslighting out there. This comes from my Substack, which also comes out in written format, and I do an audio-visual format as well on YouTube and Apple Podcasts and the other Spotify type of spaces because it's a paradigm shift and you want to meet people where they are. So I will start from the beginning. This is the first of several Substacks where I'm going to talk about my vision for the future of the online labor market, because I think in the end, online marketplaces offer so much value that we need to have a labor market online. But obviously the one that we have doesn't work. Clearly it's causing quite a lot of economic damage and it's caused quite a lot of harm. So what can we do instead? How do we fix it? What does it look like? If it's not this, what is it then? And I've referenced it to some degree in what I had there, but it occurred to me that maybe I needed to articulate in detail what it looks like. Don't just say it, paint the picture, fill it in, show people what the sunset is. If you're going to say you should check out what the sunset could be, show them. So I'm going to start from the beginning here. The present situation. We measure hiring markets by speed and volume, applications per minute, time to hire, cost per click. But what if these metrics are tracking the symptoms of trust collapse rather than market health? What if efficiency without trust isn't just ineffective, but actively harmful, creating the very noise it claims to reduce? If you have listened to my other stuff, you will understand that's been my argument, or read my SSRM papers. When job seekers have no alternative marketplace, when this is the only food court, their time and attention become a captive resource. Traditional market signals, exit, choice, and voice do not function in an online labor market. In this environment, measuring trust isn't just academic, it's the only way to detect whether value is being exchanged or extracted in an online market. I've spent the last 100 blog posts or so in depth articulating the problem in the market, giving only regular nods to my market solution. My next several blogs will be in depth about the solution itself. First, how do you measure trust in a market like this? That's where I'm going to start, and then I will talk about the presentation layers. I have several. I think one of the beauties of technology where it's at is the same data layer can be used to model 4 or 5 different interfaces depending on the needs of the user themselves. So if I like looking at, stock markets, I can look at this style. If someone likes looking at Yelp, if someone likes looking at maps, depends on you and your cognitive architecture. You're not good. Anyway, first, how do you measure trust in a market like this? Let's start about trust in general, though. I'll also reference how you avoid gamification too. But trust in general is the currency that allows any economic market to function. But in online markets, it is an especially sneakily important. Without it, efficiency doesn't clear the market. It amplifies noise, burnout, and wasted effort. A simulation of a market, a theater of throughput, not a transactional space of sharing relevant information. In this post, we'll break trust down into 3 core dimensions and explore how each can be measured and interpreted. Who this is for? This piece is for anyone who wants to understand the hidden mechanics of online hiring markets, especially a way of concretely measuring trust in a market that might feel overwhelming. Job seekers who want to know why applying to hundreds of postings doesn't always lead to opportunities and how to identify processes that respect their time. Employers and hiring managers who want to see how trust could work as a metric for choosing talent vendors. Product designers and platform builders designing tools for labor markets, recruitment, or any marketplace with asymmetric power. Researchers and analysts exploring labor economics, behavioral systems, or market dynamics where human attention and trust are central. Anyone curious about systemic design, especially markets where engagement is easy, but trust is scarce. In short, if you care about making the labor market work for humans and not just metrics, this is for you. Setting the stage. As with my practical steps towards a hiring market that clears talent, not delivers identity, a note on my position. I am a startup entrepreneur building in public. My goal here is to outline a framework for thinking, to narrate the vision I'm working towards, not to issue prescriptive rules for every context. That's not, no. And also, let no one make me queen of any global market, setting rules without feedback. That would simply recreate the problems I'm trying to address. Instead, see this as the work of someone trying to cultivate something fruitful from the chaos of the current labor market, a market where people depend on to survive. I work recursively. I lay down principles where I see them while my product is in its early stages to show my current thinking. But I watch this complex system the way a farmer watches the sky and the soil. I do. I can't help it. It's almost like I think of myself as Ben Franklin writing the Farmer's Almanac, but like for an online marketplace. You can see the patterns shift a little bit. Always studying what helps things grow. And again, I source my safety in learning and adapting, not knowing. The goal is to improve it. And it's my first rule of online markets, any market that cannot review what its principal measurement metric is already in a rough place. Like, you should be able to review and readapt. You have to. It's like Goodhart's law. And I wrote it in another way, in my own way. But you have to be able to readapt it. So I'm going to state and start with these things as the central point that I'm coming from. But these should be adapted over time. These 3 principles are a starting place. I welcome that we revisit them over time to see if they need to adapt or if they continue to hold value. 3 principles of trust measurement. First, perception of transparency. The first space of encountering a job ad, again, this is not employment, this is hiring intermediaries, the people standing between job seekers and employers, hiring intermediaries. Does a job ad provide enough information for participants to make informed choices? Transparency is about clarity and honesty. A job ad can be fast to engage with, but if it hides crucial details like pay, role, scope, hiring stage, it depends on the thing, candidates are left guessing. This lack of information drives over engagement and wasted effort. Also, does the process include a recruiter or an ATS? Who knows? If a job seeker does not know, there is quite a decent chance we are running on gambling adjacent lack of info as a revenue stream for vendors, for the middleman. If these guys know, but these guys don't know, these guys are making bank on the gambling. Yeah? That's what's happening. Signals to measure. Clarity of job description, responsibilities, pay, location, level, seniority. That's this end game here. Accuracy of process expectations. These people in the middle, how are they going to behave? Again, this is a group of people, not just one, but still. Include stages, timelines, and outcomes. Alignment between advertised opportunity and actual experience. The key insight here, transparency is dynamic. A posting may seem transparent at first, but the truth often emerges only after engagement. When candidates realize the information was incomplete or misleading, perceived trust drops, even if they spend hours interacting with the system. Example, a job ad lists full-time remote role, but interviews reveal a requirement to be on-site multiple days a week. Initial transparency perception was high. Post-process, trust is eroded. Follow-up. When it comes to transparency, it's not just about the employer and their transparency norms. It's about the way the platform conveys employer intent. If company X posts a project manager role on Indeed, per se, in 10 cities, that is remote, is that 10 roles or is that 1 role? Should an applicant apply 10 times or just 1? If the employer doesn't share that, does the vendor have a policy? They absolutely should, or again, they're making bank on what these guys don't know. It's a profit stream to run the unpaid labor a little bit longer around the block. If the employer doesn't share that, does the vendor have a policy, even when it's not a recruitment scam or a ghost role or identity theft? The workforce is undoubtedly 100% mathematically being exploited for free labor at stochastic scale right now in these hope economic civility and stability abattoirs that are masquerading as job platforms. Because there's no rule, there's no regulation. These platforms exist without all regulation and expectation. They exist without regulation. They control the entire workforce's access to food, clothing, shelter, and healthcare. And like, even when they don't host, scam artists and identity theft and evergreen roles, which they all do, even when they don't host API roles, and even when they don't host, scraped roles that are dead, they're taking real roles, like triple checking them everywhere. And again, I don't know, but I'd be really surprised if they don't just magnify them too. It's hard to say. That part is not even necessary to know for sure. But again, it's like a kaleidoscope and a telescope. Both look like cylinders when you're looking at them. They only look different when you're looking through them. And it's been a century since anybody who's paying for these platforms have looked through the job seeker end of the experience, while putting these things on individualized algorithmic platforms where the profit stream is absolutely to make kaleidoscopes while giving these guys telescopes, It's a thing we're thinking on. But again, we need to have this transparency norm visible and realize that sometimes when the employer says we're being transparent and these guys say this isn't transparent, there's a world that it's because these guys were profiting on creating kaleidoscopes. Perception of experiential respect. Definition: how well does the hiring experience honor the time, effort, and humanity of the participants? Respect in experience, let's be real here, is felt, not just stated. It's the sense that the system values your attention and treats you as a participant, not just a data point. Signals to measure: responsiveness and communication quality, meaningfulness of interactions. Do assessments and interviews feel purposeful? Emotional impact: stress, clarity, confidence in next steps, etc. Key insight: when participants feel respected, they engage more effectively. Poorly designed processes that ignore candidate experience force broader engagement, more applications, more repeated effort, more frustration. Respectful design shortens cycles and restores signal. Example: an employer uses a long, repetitive online test for every applicant but provides no feedback. Candidates feel their time is undervalued and they compensate by applying to multiple other opportunities. The way that these things happen. Note: respect, like taste, is subjective. Some candidates prefer structured interviews, others thrive in conversational settings. The goal is not to please everyone, but to recognize that misalignment between process design and candidate preference creates noise. At TJAP, we're building systems that let candidates filter not just by role, but by process type, helping them find employers whose interview style matches their strengths, much like moviegoers use reviews from viewers with similar tastes. Time is currency. Definition: this is the literal and perceived investment of time required to engage with the job market from the job seeker end. Time is the clearest measurable unit of trust. If processes are opaque or disrespectful, every minute spent is a cost. When trust is high, time feels well spent. Signals to measure: average time per application or interaction. From the job seeker end, how long does it take them to apply? Number of steps from initial posting to decision. Frequency of dead-end engagement, application, assessments, or interviews. I've used this example before, but I had one of my contractors said he got a job at Amazon. Or he got an interview at Amazon, and it was his dream job. So he took a day off work. 6 interviews later, aka 6 job interviews later, 6 days off work later, he got cut from the process, never found out why, and he had to miss family wedding that year. And he was employed. Think about what that feels like when you're not. Right? Time as currency matters for the job seeker, matters for the economy, matters for the workforce. And it also matters for these hiring intermediaries so that job seekers can see the average. And again, it's going to be different for each person as well, but that's the kind of stuff that matters. And when employers are making a decision, they're going to go with Greenhouse versus Workday. They're going to go with Pontoon versus Adecco, etc. They can also make choices based on how much it costs for subscription and what the average time as currency is for the job seekers when they report using those services. It makes it much, much closer to reality and less economically detrimental for the workforce and the economy at large, because the workforce is the economy. Key insight: time interacts with transparency and respect. Transparent and respectful processes reduce wasted effort and make time worth it. Opaque or dismissive processes amplify the perceived and real cost of participation. Example: completing a multi-hour assessment is acceptable if it's clear, relevant, and paired with responsive communication. If it's opaque and repetitive, candidates feel exploited. Interconnection. Here's the thing. Trust is multidimensional. These three dimensions are not independent. They inform and amplify each other. Transparency to time. More information saves time for job seekers, and employers reduce wasted engagement. Respect to time. Considered meaningful processes feel shorter and more productive. Yeah. So you can choose a company that might have a higher time as currency, but also a greater respect signal there. Transparency to respect. Being misled or left in the dark erodes perceived respect. It just does. Measuring trust, therefore, is not purely quantitative. It's a hybrid of behavioral metrics, time investment, and experiential perception. Only by examining all three dimensions together can we understand whether a market is truly functional or operating in a noise-driven engagement trap. Importantly, also, like any review system, we expect these things to shift over time, and we are looking for patterns, not one-off reviews. What do people say over time, and how does that shift with management and more? I have a checked research section. Trust in labor market is not just an abstract idea. It has a measurable impact. It's curated list of studies and findings. Efficiency without trust, etc. Labor market specific insights for myself. I write too, obviously. Key takeaway: efficiency metrics alone do not predict market outcomes. Trust mechanisms, signal quality, and experience matter, and the lack of these leads directly to the engagement trap and cascading noise we see in hiring platforms. Introduction to the job applicant perspective. Restoring trust at scale. If measuring trust helps us understand where the labor market fails, then TJAP is designed to be the solution. The platform doesn't just make engagement easier, it makes it meaningful. It operationalizes the dimensions of trust we just explored: transparency, experiential respect, and time as currency. TJAP works by filtering engagement through trustworthiness, not frictionless speed. Candidates are using their voices and insight to begin only buying job ads with their time that have user reviews and some level of predictable outcomes. Would you rather buy from an eBay with user reviews or without? It's not hard to decide. Reducing wasted time and noise. Job seekers no longer feel compelled to apply to every posting. Employers can focus on qualified candidates rather than sorting through volume. Restoring signal in the market, trust signals, clear postings, respectful processes, predictable timelines make interactions informative, not guesswork. Think of TJAP like a carefully curated grocery store rather than a flashy candy aisle. In the candy aisle, consumption is endless but unfulfilling. TJAP is the healthy aisle, highlighting opportunities that matter and guiding attention towards value. In systems terms, trust becomes the mechanism of efficiency. Where traditional hiring tools amplify noise through frictionless engagement, TJAP uses trust to ensure the market clears efficiently, matching candidates and employers based on reliable information and mutual respect. In short, TJAP is the antidote to the engagement trap. It aligns behavior with meaningful outcomes, ensuring that time, effort, and attention are invested wisely, not wasted in a cascade of noise. Now, to be clear, we are at the MVP level. This is a paradigm shift. So you shouldn't go to like, wow, why are these things there? We are MVP. We start from square one. But we realize that every step forward is 100% improvement from where we currently are. That's the way. Conclusion. In a billion-dollar market built on the unpaid labor of job seekers, trust is more than a nice-to-have. It is the mechanism that allows the system to clear efficiently. Measuring trust isn't just about speed or throughput, it's about transparency. Are opportunities accurately and clearly represented? Experiential respect, are participants' time and effort honored? Time as currency, how much effort is required to engage meaningfully, and is it worth it? And understand, these are all from the job seeker's point of view. It's not about employers. We can do that too for employers eventually. But right now, employers have a level of trust in the market. That's the problem. They don't realize that job seekers don't share that even a little. That's funny. Yeah, no. By tracking these dimensions, we can start to diagnose where markets fail and where interventions like TGAP can restore, reduce noise, and finally align engagement with meaningful outcomes. In a market where engagement is easy but trust is scarce, we've been measuring the wrong things. We track noise and call it activity. In all honesty, most of the noise we've been tracking will probably be used in class action lawsuits for the cases to demonstrate, exploited free labor. But trust, measuring through transparency, respect, and time well spent, is what turns activities into outcomes. It's what separates a market that clears from one that merely consumes. Yeah, that's it. It's more of a practical one. Again, the next ones will be practical. After this, I'm going to do the trust stock market next, the Google Maps of hiring, the Wikipedia of hiring, and I might do one more. But the concept here is to realize too that using the trust data layer, or talking about how we're measuring trust, then the same data layer can be used to amplify multiple versions of the information, because it really is the same thing. And by doing so, you can meet people where they're at in a variety of ways. The different styles of people, including just the simple Yelp. Sometimes people just want it to be simple, straightforward. I just want to see what it looks like, this job ad, Okay, cool. Yelp it is for you. If you're like a data person, a trust stock market might work better. Wikipedia, if you're a wordy person, These kind of things matter. But when you're talking about food, clothing, shelter, and healthcare for the entire workforce and their, their dependents, that's pretty important. Right now it's pretty detrimental. I would call this one of the greatest acts of class warfare in modern history done utterly in silence. I do hope that eventually the civil lawyers will take back some of the money that was stolen. But for now, we're at where we're at. We start where we are. And in the end, the goal isn't to erase any harm in the past, is to learn from it, to integrate it, to get it in there and be like, okay, this is what happened, and to learn from it. I really think that's important, to learn how these things happen and what causes that and what we can do about it. Yeah, so that's where we're at right now. And also I have an SRM paper related to the gamification, because it's a huge concern, especially for employers, economists, and investors. How are you going to protect against, this side of the market gaming? Because let's be fair, we might be well aware that the vendors and this side, especially with evergreen rules, have been acting wildly unethically. But it's not because these guys aren't capable of it. It's because they haven't had the power to do so. So the goal is to design a system that cannot be gamified on either end, or not necessarily not gamified, but the gamification can be alerted to. So I will do an article as well about my interlocking trust layers in order to protect the market from gamification in the future. But for now, I'm going to start with what I'm going to do. Then I'm going to start with the gamification, and also I'll explain how you can have the same data layer, but it can have different interfaces depending on the person. Just think about it being like in French and Spanish and Chinese, whatever, Mandarin, excuse me. I can do the same thing. It can look like a picture. It can look like words. It can look like code, depending on who you are as a person. And that will help it be present for people where they are, because the goal in the end is to connect employers and job seekers, so that the people who want work and the people who need someone to work there can find each other efficiently and easily, and understand that some levels of friction is okay. That's how it should. And just because someone's coffee and someone's tea, it's no skin off anyone's back. That's okay. Coffee's good, tea's good. The goal isn't to be good for everybody. It's to find your tea people and to find your coffee people. That's the thought. Anyway, thanks very much. Have a good one. And please like, follow, and share, repost, and stop by the Job Applicant Perspective and check me out on LinkedIn or all the other socials. Thank you.